My name is DELORES By DELORES and I own my own fashion brand called DELORES By DELORES. I'm the creative director and designer of the brand. I always knew that I wanted to do fashion design from probably secondary school. But then I think the turnaround was when I did an internship when I was at uni, my first year, and I worked with a menswear designer, Alex Matson. He was a small independent brand, and that's where I really got to see what it was like being a business owner, the pros and the cons, and how much hard work went into it. And after that experience, I went away and I was like, I really, really want to do this. I want to really go ahead and pursue it seriously. I chose the name DELORES by DELORES because my brand reflects me, it reflects who I am. It's like a personal, I would say like a personal diary where I can kind of share my ideas and share stories with everyone, but just through clothes. I'm inspired mostly by life and a lot by nature. So I enjoy just going out, experiencing things, because I'm always looking for a story to tell and also just be inspired by what's out there. So I enjoy a lot of art, a lot of music. My first memory of fashion or being creative is through my mother. She is a fashionista herself, and especially in the African culture, you literally sew clothes for every occasion. So every occasion she would buy cloth and she would ask me to feel it and talk about the quality of each cloth and how each cloth had a meaning behind it. Each cloth had a name. So that was my first initial introduction, I would say, into fashion and cloth, an idea of cloth. And then now I kind of like make my own cloth. So it's really a 360. So I did study fashion throughout all the years. So I did textiles in secondary school. Then I did textiles and art in college. And then university, I did fashion studies. And then for my master's, I ended up doing fashion knitwear design. I fell into menswear by accident, I always say, but when I did start, it felt natural to me, but then I did find it that men would find it weird that a woman was designing menswear. But I think gradually people are adjusting to it because a lot of men are designers for women's brands, so it's nice to see that women are stepping into the menswear field as well. The new collection that I've put together is called Ascension, and it derived from a personal story. So basically I was like feeling really rubbish because I wasn't doing anything creative, just stuck. I felt stuck and I was like really down. And then one Easter Sunday, I went to church and I was just sitting down kind of like moody and just like slumped in the audience. And then the choir started singing. And for a weird reason, I just felt really like overwhelmed. And I just started crying and just like crying. But after that cry, I felt such a release in that sense. I felt good. It was like a good cry session. I felt really good, and I felt different as well. I just felt like I wasn't overwhelmed anymore. I just felt like an element of freedom. I don't know how to put it, like an element of freedom. And with that, I kind of like I'm always inspired by stories. When I create, I always have to read a book, watch a film, or through my research, I was inspired by stories. So I just thought, how can I tell this story through my work? And the word ascension just kept coming to mind. And not that I'm slow, but I had to, Google what ascension was. And when I read the meaning, it's like, that's how I felt in a way. And then it kind of reminded me of how birds kind of ascend from the ground up, and that's how I felt I was emotionally, like down, and then kind of went up. And it also kind of reminded me of like the phoenix kind of rising. So then I started looking at birds, and because colour and pattern and texture are my strengths, I would say, within my design work, I started like researching different birds, like their prints, their colours, and from there, that's where I started kind of putting Ascension together and trying to tell the story of hope and of joy and kind of like freedom. So I think Ascension is about joy, hope, and freedom. So when I first started designing, I think about what story am I trying to tell. So it comes to research, loads of images, saving images and stuff like that. And then once I kind of have an idea of what story I want to tell, I then focus on my color palette. And from there, it's like, what do I want people to feel when they see the collection? How they think, how the colors make them feel, and how does the colors tell the story as well of what I'm trying to share. And then my first initial thing is I paint. So I'm not the best painter. I wouldn't say I'm an artist or anything like that, but I just paint just to kind of get ideas out of my head, but also working out color palettes. So my favorite mediums to use is watercolor, acrylic, pastel, and I enjoy a bit of charcoal and like pen and pencil as well. But I use those because it allows me to play with the intensity of the colors. So I might start off a bit more mute and then start off darker and just kind of build the palette that I want, just so I can just see it physically then in my head. So once I kind of see something that I've drawn in the colors, then I would start like cutting strips of colors and kind of putting together to play about with it visually. I work with color a lot, like emotionally, I would say, and I feel like color is very like a spiritual thing as well. It has the power to really change a person's mood, a person's feelings. So I really take time with color and really like to feel it out. So a lot of my process with color is, how do I want you to feel? I want you to feel how I feel about my story, if that makes sense. So I take my time with color. Once I've kind of got a color palette that I want, then I go with silhouettes. So silhouettes for my sketches and what I would like my garments to look like. And one thing I always say I like my garments to look like, I like simple silhouettes, because my garments are very loud in color and very loud in print or texture, and I want the fabric to speak for itself. So I tend to use simple silhouettes to let the fabric speak, if that makes sense. So I like very wearable clothes, but my unique twist is the color and the prints. So once I've kind of figured out my silhouette, I pattern cut them with paper pattern cut, do the patterns, and then I'll do a twirl 1,000 times to see if it works or not. If it works, thank God on that first one. If it doesn't, I need to go back to the paper and do it again and then twirl it. And thank God I kind of like have friends that come in that look like models. And my brother especially as well, he does so much for me. So try stuff on for me and then see if it works on their body. If not, do it again, get them to come back in, try it again. So it's a process till I get a perfect fit on them. And then once it works in like the calico or the jersey, I then work with the real kind of fabric to do a sample to kind of see if it looks like how I want it to look. When designing, I do draw inspiration from two artists, one being Mark Rothko, which I love his work, but more I draw from his psychology of the use of colour and how it affects humans, which kind of goes back to the colour theory. And I really enjoy it, so I try to implement that in my work. And also an artist called Chidi Okoye. He's a Nigerian artist and I absolutely love his work. So I love how he conveys emotion and how he can tell a story by the colours and just the movement in his art. So I really try to draw from there on how I want to tell my story emotionally using colour within my work. So I think those two are a big inspiration for me. I would like to be known as somebody who made people feel limitless in the sense of just being free to express themselves, have fun with clothes, and just bring joy and hope through my clothes. I know it sounds probably cliche, but I would want people to feel good when they're wearing my clothes and feel a sense of joy and importance.